The R factor. How to get from where you are to where you want to be. Hello there, I'm Captain Lee, and I want to welcome you to today's webinar. Also, I would like to thank those that attended my 14-day challenge for the wonderful work that they did, and I hope they got as much out of it as I did. I've got some really exciting information to share with you. In fact, I'm going to be giving you proven strategies for building the kind of life, lifestyle, and career and future you've been yearning for. If life is feeling a bit stagnant for you right now, like you're just going through the motions every day, kind of like in a rut, nothing ever changes, I want to take you through a process that will help you start dreaming again. And I want to give you the proven process for getting from where you are to where you want to be. These proven strategies I'll be sharing are already being used by top achievers around the world, people who've succeeded wildly in business, philanthropy, sports, entertainment. They've got awesome lifestyles, terrific relationships, fascinating causes that are important to them, all the money they need, and of course, they've got the freedom of making their own schedules to focus on the things they want to do. I want that for you too, which is why I'm happy to have you with me today to go through this proven formula. It's just a matter of following the steps. There are 4 steps in all. And if you had a chance to download and print out the workbook that's included free with this webinar, you'll see that there are worksheets you can do on your own time for each of the 4 steps. It seems like it might take a little time to do it, a little time out of your day, but it will be worth it for you in the long run, I promise. So let's get started. The first step to creating a different future is actually an equation that changes everything. E plus R equals O, which stands for event plus response, your response, equals outcome. When I first learned this equation, I responded to life's events as they came up. If I got a flat tire, I responded with just frustration and just not being very happy. If my bank account was in trouble, and it was, I was miserable. If there was bumper to bumper traffic on my way to work, I felt terrible, again, for coming to work 10 minutes late. I blamed the traffic. I blamed the weather. That was until I learned this equation for responding differently to life's events. Here's the reality. Events just happen. I mean, stuff happens. Often you can't control them because they materialize as a result of specific situations, other people's emotions, other people's timing, the economy, the weather, the dog up the street, and a million other details that are outside of your control. Stuff just happens. Events just happen. But what most people do when faced with events is they feel harassed and stressed. They'll do anything to just make the situation go away. That's reactionary. And unfortunately, it often produces an outcome they really don't want. So what's their first inclination? To blame event for their bad outcome. Unfortunately, blaming an event for producing a negative in your life puts all the power outside of your control. Blaming event for producing a negative in your life puts everything in the control of somebody or something else. Events happen. That's reality. So the only way to get a good outcome is respond in a way that will bring about the best outcome that you want. Here's an example. I used to work in a prison system. I had a living unit. I was in charge of the casework services for 2 of the meanest living units in the state of California. One of them had the highest percentage of murders than any other living unit. We had a stabbing death in another institution. It was a gang killing, and when that happens, they riot all over the state. So we knew that there was going to be a riot that night. But on the way out, I stopped by my boss and I said, do you mind if I go down and conduct 2 large groups, one on each of my living units, and see if we can stave off what we think is going to happen tonight? And he looked at me and he said, okay, Sullivan, that's what he called me, Sullivan. He said, the TAC team has already been called. They're already on their way down here. They're going to be able to put down any kind of riot. They're going to be able to try to prevent people from getting hurt, because that's our primary concern. And what's going to happen is inevitable. There's nothing anybody can do about it. So no. And I said, well, what if I did it on my own time? And he looked at me and kind of shook his head in bewilderment, because he can't figure out why I want to do something that seems so futile. But what he said was, you do it on your own time, I won't pay you. So you're just wasting your time. I said, fair enough. I called my 2 living units. I had 2 large groups. That night, every open dormed living unit in the facility went up in a riot, except for my 2. What I went down and told the wards was a message about the R factor. I'll tell you more about what happened later. So today, the first step in this life-changing formula I've been talking about is to take responsibility for how you respond to events, but especially for how you respond to opportunities that come up. This doesn't mean you have to take responsibility for the event itself. That is usually out of your hands. But how you respond is 100% within your control. And it's the one leverage point where you can change what you get out of life. So taking more responsibility for your responses is the first and most important step towards creating more success in our lives. You can be thoughtful and deliberate, or you can be frustrated and reactive and emotional and just mad and just not too happy. But that's always your choice. And what's so terrific about this concept is that it puts control back into your hands. This is especially important when opportunities come up. Opportunities for you to get ahead or achieve what you want. Do you know that some people react emotionally when they actually have an opportunity presented to them? They complain that, oh, the timing's just not right, or they're not quite ready yet, or that it's going to require a lot of work and maybe some additional study that I need, or they don't have enough money right now to buy the clothes that they're going to need. You'd be surprised at the complaints you'll hear from some people when an opportunity arises. But here's the second point about the E-R-O equation. E plus R equals O. You have to give up blaming and complaining about the event. I know that's going to be hard. It was hard for me. Sometimes it's hard for me now. But you're going to have to give up blaming and complaining about the event and focus on how you will respond appropriately and positively. Getting back to the negative event that happens, what do most people do? They complain, but they complain to the wrong person. If I'm upset that my boss has given me a ton of extra work to finish by tomorrow morning, I complain to my coworker, Steve. And if I'm upset with my wife for spending on a major purchase without us talking about it first, I complain to my best friend. That doesn't solve anything because you're complaining to the wrong person. It's wasted energy. I need to tell Erica her timing or prioritization of projects is unworkable, and we need a better system of scheduling. I need to tell my spouse that I want to create a household budget so that major purchases are planned and paid for before we make the decision to buy. If I speak to the right person instead of the wrong person, the right person can do something. Communicating my request is the first step to actually getting what I want. This is just a mature discussion. It's relationship management 101. But what about natural disasters and other events that don't involve individual people? I can respond to those events differently as well. I can leave an extra 20 minutes early for a meeting in case of traffic. I can keep up on the economic news and put extra savings away if I hear there's a recession coming down. I can upgrade my skills, go back to school, so that I'm still valuable to the new management after my company gets bought out. And I can have the right kinds of healthy food in my refrigerator so that I'm not eating on the run and grabbing junk food because I'm too busy to shop or to cook. Instead of spending most of our time blaming things outside of ourselves, the weather, the boss, the traffic, the economy, or the current president, we can take action in advance and be prepared. We can devise ways to increase our options should disaster occur, whatever the world throws at us. We have to stop blaming something outside of ourselves. So taking more responsibility for our responses to events is the first and the most important step towards creating more success in our lives. Another important part of taking responsibility and not being a victim in life is watching out for something I call yellow alerts. Yellow alerts are little events or comments about recurring situations, or it could be a recurring situation that you notice that act as clues that something is happening or is about to happen, and you know it's not going to work out in your favor. Here's an example. I hire Sarah as my personal assistant, and 2 months later, she says, I'm thinking about marrying a wonderful guy that I met in the Bahamas last week. But I ignore that. Then a month later, Sarah says, she's really liking this guy more and thinking she's fallen in love. And also hates the rain in Sacramento. A few weeks after that, she's buying bridal magazines and looking for real estate in the Bahamas. Then all of a sudden, Sarah quits, and I'm surprised and unprepared and scrambling for a new administrative assistant because I wasn't paying attention to the yellow alerts Sarah was giving me all along. In my life, I was ignoring yellow alerts that I was getting from my wife until I no longer have a wife. Watch out for yellow alerts and have the courage to step up and address them. There are lots of yellow alerts in your life. Like if your teenager is coming home late all the time, smelling like funny or maybe not talking as straight night after night as you think he should be, or the senior executives from your head office have been, reportedly visiting your department with no explanation time and time again recently. Or your biggest client has been giving projects that are a deal for you to other consultants. You wonder, well, what's going on here? But you don't want to say anything because that would be uncomfortable. Unfortunately, because mature conversations and inquiries and taking action is sometimes inconvenient or uncomfortable, we tend to deny the yellow alerts rather than act upon them in time. The truth is, we're almost always given truths that things are coming. We are not the victims here. I am not the victim of my marriage demise. I just didn't follow or want to acknowledge the yellow alerts. So they can be extremely costly. I want to direct your attention to 2 different exercises, as a matter of fact, in the free workbook that was included with today's class. If you don't have your workbook yet, you can download it after the webinar is over by going to the link that was in your confirmation email when you registered for today's webinar. You won't need your workbook to do any exercises right now, but to get the most benefit from today's class, please take the time and do the exercise sometime this week. The first exercise I want to explain is something called a difficult or troubling situation analysis. Like the unexpected event, we all experience ongoing troubling situations from time to time. It's just part of life. No matter how well you prepare to avoid these hardships, they simply happen. And if not addressed, they can trouble you for years. It's far easier to resolve the situation than move on. What kinds of situations am I talking about? A teenager or a sibling who's not speaking to you. A financial difficulty that's getting worse every day and you're just ignoring it, hoping it's going to go away. A health condition that's annoying, to be nagging, maybe you're uncomfortable. A tense atmosphere at your workplace. That sneaking suspicion that your spouse is being unfaithful. The key here is to respond to the event, whether it's sudden or long-standing, with a commitment to resolving it so you can move on to creating better outcomes in the future. The difficult or troubling situation analysis will help you get past the current situation so you can focus on your success again. The exercise has full instructions in the workbook, but it essentially asks you to analyze the payoffs or benefits you get for keeping the situation like it is. The negative costs of keeping it like it is, your part in creating or allowing it to be like it is, and actions you could take or requests you could make to get what you want instead. Don't fail to respond to a troubling situation because it's easier, more convenient, less uncomfortable, less confrontational, keeps the peace, or doesn't require taking risks. Take action. Don't allow negative outcomes to be your fate. In the same way, you don't want to fail to respond to a yellow alert because it's easy or more convenient or less confrontational. There's a second exercise in your workbook called, What Are You Pretending Not to Know? If you're experiencing negative outcomes in your life, perhaps you're ignoring the facts or excusing your part in creating a problem. To help you identify areas to take corrective action for, take action to prevent eventual disaster. The exercise asks you to examine each area of your life and determine if there's a problem that you're ignoring or creating. You might be ignoring something to do with your health, your money, your family, or your lifestyle or career. Whatever it is, this exercise will help you respond to the yellow alerts before something disastrous occurs. The next critical step is the proven success formula that I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. It's that you have to decide what you want. One of the most amazing phenomena you'll ever experience as you incorporate this formula into your daily life is the unexpected phone call, the windfall financial benefits, or the uncanny new acquaintance that brings you exactly what you want or need in order to achieve your goals, just in the nick of time, almost as if it were planned. Perhaps it's the universe rewarding your new take action attitude by harnessing all the forces at its disposal. Or perhaps you worked hard and have grown yourself to the point where you're finally ready to receive a benefit which has been waiting in the wings all along. But more probably, as researchers now believe, it may simply be a matter of your subconscious mind focusing on and recognizing opportunity when it comes. Whatever the explanation, the reality is that what you want wants you. That is the law of attraction. You're a broadcasting antenna, a broadcasting beacon that broadcasts to the world how to treat you and what you want. Whatever you broadcast in earnest will be reflected in your life. That's the law. I have a meditation audio available activating the beacon within that will help you learn to effectively broadcast your desires to the world. Your goals, desires, and needs are patiently waiting to gravitate towards you once you decide and broadcast what you truly want. Of course, the main reason why most people don't get what they want is they haven't decided what that is yet. They haven't defined their goals exactly. not exact enough to give a clear blueprint of what it is you want. After all, how else can your mind know where to begin looking if you don't give it specific and detailed goals to achieve? Our subconscious mind is your dedicated servant. Your subconscious mind is comparable to a ship's crew that carries out all of its duties and captain's requests to protect and please the captain. You are that ship. Your subconscious mind is the crew, and your conscious mind is the captain. The captain's needs and desires must be made clear to the crew, or the crew cannot fulfill them. There's a very powerful technique for helping you define what you want in vivid detail. I'll be talking more about that technique in just a few moments. But before defining the ideal life you want for yourself, here's a word of caution. Make sure your wants that are personally important to you, not those you believe should be important or those that the world expects you to have, or something your mother wants you to do, or your friends want you to do, or Madison Avenue tells you to wear. What's truly important to you from the deepest part in your heart, that's what you should start striving for. What's truly important to you from the deepest place in your heart. Don't live someone else's dream. The people whose lives are being lived to seek the approval of others suffer from a condition I call the approval-seeking syndrome, or ASS for short. ASS is huge, and you have to move your ass if you're ever going to enjoy your own dreams. Unfortunately, the sad reality for most people is they simply aren't honest with themselves. If they were, they would realize their shoulds are almost always less interesting and more hassle than what they truly want. Here's an example. Many people have become social media influencers or industry experts. They were working dull jobs at first and following a career that other people thought was fantastic, but their lives weren't singing. They weren't becoming thrilling or fulfilling or meaningful to them, sometimes not even lucrative, until they started a decorating blog on the internet, or started consulting with small businesses, or making things with their hands, or playing an instrument, or singing, or dancing, or starting to write cookbooks, or any kind of books. Once they were living the life they truly wanted, all the necessary opportunities showed up, including the money. One of the easiest ways to begin deciding what you truly want is to ask a friend to help you make a list. Have the friend continually ask you, what do you want? 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 For about 10 to 15 minutes while jotting down your answers. You'll find the first wants you run through aren't all that really profound. You know, you're gonna be asking for the nice car, you're gonna want a motorcycle, you're gonna want the boat, you're gonna want the house in Malibu. But by the end of the 15-minute exercise, the real you begins to speak. Things like, I want people to love me. I want to make a difference. I want to be significant in what I do. These are true expressions of your heartfelt desires. You notice you didn't hear anything about money in there. Money's important, but this is what we really want. So that's a quick exercise you can do with a friend, and then trade places and help them out when you can, and help them make their list on their own too. But to really create definitive lists, I want you to turn to the page in your workbook and find an exercise called the vision exercise. And it'll help you decide what you want to be, do, and have in the 7 major areas of your life. The vision exercise is also located in your workbook. This is an exercise you do privately, just you alone. Start by putting on some relaxing music and sitting quietly in a comfortable place, a place that you like being in, and you feel safe and your thoughts can be relaxed. Then close your eyes and ask your crew, your mind, to give you images of what your ideal life would look like if you're living it exactly as you want. Visualize your life in 7 key areas: your career and professional life, your finances, your recreation and free time, your body and physical health, your relationships, your personal growth, your community work. As you go through the exercise, you'll be defining what you want to be, do, and have in each of these 7 areas. There are ideas, prompts, and memory joggers in each section of the exercise to help you think through your ideal life. But your crew, your subconscious mind, knows what you want and should be the ultimate source of ideas for you. Even if you don't have the workbook with you, let's do a little bit of this exercise right now. So, of course, if you're driving and listening to this as an audio, do not close your eyes. But everyone else, relax. Close your eyes now and begin breathing deeply. In and out. Feel the relaxation flow through your body. Again, another deep breath in, and the relaxation comes as you breathe out. Oh, that's right. Now, imagine you are your ideal in the ideal home environment. Where is it located? What's the view outside the window? Just take a minute, take a look. What are the colors of the main living area? What kind of decor or art objects do you have in your home? Is there music playing in the background? How do you feel as you stroll through the rooms of your ideal home? Now come back slowly and open your eyes. What you just did was an example of the vision exercise you'll be doing later in the workbook. It takes time. Don't rush it. If you don't immediately see images of the different areas of your life, that's perfectly okay. It still works just as well if you are just thinking of the ideal elements, actually seeing yourself in those environments. Let your mind wander a bit. Dream a little. When the ideas come to you, write them down in the workbook. Many people set aside an evening to do the rest of this exercise. So tonight after this webinar, This is a great time to get started on this lengthy exercise, but it's an important one to do because they will ultimately form goal lists of things you need to work on. So here's some really good news. Those wants that you'll be identifying later in your workbook are achievable. In fact, for most everything we want, someone else has already done it, created it, owned it, achieved it. Everything that you could imagine has already been done. So there's not much of what we want anymore that is so lofty it can't be accomplished. But the key to getting what you want, and here is step 3 in the formula, is to set goals around the things that you want to be, do, and have. And how do we set a goal? By writing it in such a way that it's specific and measurable. That is, someone other than you can read this goal and know for certain whether or not you've achieved that goal or not. Let me give you an example. If you said, I want to own a house on the beach someday, that's a nice dream or desire you have, but to make it into a specific and measurable goal, you need more information. And you need to state it in a way that is there certainly for you. It's certain for you what it is you want. You will have that beach house one day like this. I will own a 4,000 square foot home on Pacific Coast Highway in Malibu, California by 12 o'clock midnight, April 30th, 2025. Do you hear the difference? The second version of your goal tells your brain exactly what you want to achieve. Your crew is not getting vague, hazy instructions on which to work on. If you want to retire early with millions of dollars invested, for example, state the exact money, the amount of money you'll have invested on the exact day you plan to retire. A part of the vision exercise in this workbook, you'll be tuning all of your wants into specific and measurable goals that you can begin working on and achieving. That's exercise number 4. And here's a bonus idea. Why not create minimum goals, target goals, and outrageous goals? Whenever you write down your specific and measurable goals, set 3 different levels that you will achieve. Let's say you want to build a large savings account and get out of debt. Well, a minimum goal might be putting together a $1,000 emergency fund in the next 60 days. A target goal might be to save up 3 to 6 months of living expenses in the next 10 months. And an outrageous goal might be to pay all your consumer debt and even your mortgage in the next 7 years. The outrageous goal is always something that would just blow your mind if you achieved it. Your target goal is usually something within your capabilities. And your minimum goal is something you're almost guaranteed to reach. But it gets you going. That's the deal. It gets you going. And you're starting to take action. And you have a goal that's more immediately, so you get the feel of success. Whereas an outrageous goal might seem too overwhelming to even start. What happens with this minimum target optimum formula is that most people will start with the minimum, then they get motivated and end up reaching their target goal very easily. Have you ever said, I'm just going to get rid of those old dishes stored in the garage? And the next thing you know, you've cleaned the entire garage. You've even called a local charity to haul away some stuff you haven't even seen for years that you dug up out there. It was just a matter of getting started. That's why the minimum goal, it gets you started. You can even delegate the entire garage cleanup to a professional organizer or trade with a friend by doing something for them. That would achieve your target goal for certain. While goal setting is an important step to achieving that wants on our dream list, while goal setting is an important step to achieving the wants on our dream list, most of the goals we set focus on improving our life in the moment. Things like get the house painted, finish my report, clean out the laundry room, lose 20 pounds. Well, actually, I should lose a little more than 20 pounds, but lose 20 pounds would be a nice start. But what if instead you focus on a single goal that would level up everything you do, from your career to your career network, to your income, to your lifestyle? Wouldn't that be a goal worth pursuing with passion? Wouldn't that be something to focus on a little each day until you achieved it? That's what I mean by a breakthrough goal. Something that changes your life, brings you new opportunities, gets you in front of the right people, and up levels every activity, relationship, or group you're involved in. What might your single breakthrough goal be? There's an exercise in the workbook that will help you decide. But for the purpose of this webinar, whether you believe you can achieve it or not, you're right. What one single change in your career, business, lifestyle, or relationship would boost you to the next level? Is it landing a promotion, changing jobs, expanding your business, finding your soulmate, qualifying for an award, going back to school, moving across the country, retiring early, or some other goal? Take time later to think about your breakthrough goal. There's a page in the workbook to figure it out and jot it down. Look for exercise number 5. Now, I want to finish our discussion of goal setting by talking about a technique that will help you achieve major goals in record time. It's a way to get your crew focused on assembling the resources, people, money, and circumstances needed to bring about your everyday goals, and especially your breakthrough goal. It's called affirmations. Affirmations are vividly detailed statements of you living, working, and enjoying life as if your goals had already been achieved. Affirmations help the brain focus on bringing about your heartfelt desires. They tell your crew what's up about what you want. One example of an affirmation is, I'm happily depositing my first 100,000 royalty check as a best-selling author. Another affirmation, and that is, by the way, one of my affirmations. Another affirmation is, I'm joyfully receiving the company's top sales award. Affirmations are vividly detailed statements of you living, working, and enjoying life as if your goals had already been achieved. Affirmations help your crew, your brain, focus on bringing about your heartfelt desires. One example of an affirmation is, I'm happily depositing my first 100,000 royalty check as a best-selling author. Yes, that is my affirmation. Another affirmation is, I'm joyfully receiving the company's top sales award. How do affirmations work? As scientists now know, the brain is a goal-seeking organism. If you get it a compelling, colorful, crystal clear image of what you want, it will work night and day to create opportunities, contacts, resources, and circumstances needed to achieve that vision. You see, your subconscious crew is about, 40,000 times more powerful than your conscious mind. And they have a lot of resources, and a lot of them are just dedicated to looking things and deleting information you don't need. But when you tell it it needs something, it'll stop deleting that, because maybe you do need to know that information now that you're driving that kind of car, that there's more of those cars on the road. You've seen that happen when you bought a car. You didn't think there were that many of them until you bought yours. Now they're everywhere. That is your crew looking out for you, literally. The reticular activating system filters through millions of impressions, images, messages, and thoughts. It processes each day and passes it to your conscious mind, that specific information that will help you reach your goal. Reciting your affirmations frequently throughout the day actually focuses your brain on the goals you want to achieve. Writing them out on index cards, note cards, your smartphone's wallpaper, or a sign at the bottom of your bathroom mirror, or in other places that you see, frequently during the day, they help you to constantly focus on your most important goals. My best advice is to write out your specific and measurable goals on 3x5 cards, then review the cards in the morning when you first wake up, again at night just before you fall asleep. You don't have to know how you'll accomplish the goal. That's very important. You just have to know what the goal is. That's for your crew to do. Just keep visualizing yourself in the future as if you had already achieved it. It's also powerful to add colors, sounds, emotions, and other sensory aspects to your visualization time. This is a carryover from neurolinguistic programming. And if some of you have been involved with that, or if you haven't been involved with that, I'm going to have some tapes on that as well, where you actually get these feelings in your body, and you add colors and you add sounds to make them vibrant to your crew so they can see them better. As you review your cards, try to experience the feeling of confidence as you deliver the keynote address at your industry's annual conference, or the scent of sweet potato pie cooking at the bed and breakfast hotel you recently opened, or the sound of waves breaking at the retreat in Hawaii that you've been invited to, or the joy you feel as you're living out your dream career or professional accomplishment. Repetition is the key. The workbook includes detailed guidelines to help you write powerfully effective affirmations for your unique situation, using your goals and previous exercises about what you want to be, do, and have. Look for exercise number 6. We've come to the most important step in the original 4-part formula I introduced at the beginning of this webinar. It's step number 4. Take action on your goals. Sometimes our biggest life goals seem so overwhelming. Though we may not work hard at achieving them, too often we decide to put them off altogether until we have more time, more focus, more energy, more manpower, more money, more of something or another that you don't have at the time that keeps you from doing what you need to do. We rarely see our goals as a series of small tasks. But in reality, breaking down the goal into smaller tasks and accomplishing them a few at a time is precisely how many big goals get achieved. Had I seen the list of all my college classes when I went to college, I might have been scared to death to even set foot on campus. But you chunk them down a semester or a quarter at a time, a few classes at a time, for a few years, and you got a really big reward. By breaking down your goal into bite-sized pieces and taking baby steps, you can begin accomplishing the small tasks that you've determined will lead to achieving your big task, your goal. But be aware, preparing to move forward isn't the same as taking action itself. Not the same thing as taking care of business. In other words, preparation, research, planning, getting it perfect. These are all areas where people get bogged down and never actually start taking action. They're too busy getting ready. But one way that I recommend you actually start to take action on your goals is something I call chunking it down. I am a trained Pomodoro practitioner that I've studied actually under Francisco Carrillo himself, and I will be having some videos coming out on how to use the Pomodoro technique to do that very thing very efficiently and make it as easy as it can be for you. And you'll be successful at getting things done that you never thought were possible. If you had a target goal of saving up 6 months worth of living expenses in an emergency fund, a sample goal that we mentioned earlier in this webinar, what steps could you take to pull that money together over the next 8 months or 10 months? Number one, determine the amount of money per month that you would need. Number two, identify what portion of your current savings you might use for this special fund. Number three, make a list of money sources to save, such as overtime pay at work or a holiday bonus or maybe your tax refund. Number four, make a list of unused items you could sell on Craigslist or let go. Number five, open a new bank account for this money before starting to earn more and sell things. Those 5 steps, which are essentially research and making lists and going to the bank, are all things you can do in just one day. In fact, you can probably do that in one afternoon. By making a list of what needs to be done, you've effectively chunked down all the tasks into smaller steps that are doable and achievable. And not only that, every time you check one of those small steps off, you get a feeling of accomplishment. You get a feeling of motion and movement, and inertia will keep you going in that direction. I'm producing a time managed program that I learned directly from Francisco Carrillo, author of the Pomodoro Technique, that will help you in this process. This leads me to a helpful strategy for taking action, and that is practice something called the Rule of 5. The Rule of 5 simply means that every day you do 5 specific things that will move your goal towards completion. Bigger goals might take longer, but the Rule of 5 still applies. Do 5 things every day until your goal is achieved. It's clean up messes and incompletes. Is there something that hinders people from taking any action at all? Of course. One thing is the feeling that they can't accomplish even the smallest of baby steps. They don't feel confident. Another is that they feel overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff they already have to do. And the third is that they have to ask someone for something in order to move forward. And simply asking is something they're afraid to do. Well, let's address these obstacles right now. I'm actually going to start with the second one I mentioned. People feel overwhelmed by the amount of tasks they already have to do. Most of us have incompletes and messes in our households, our offices, our relationships, our families, finances, and other major areas of our lives. We've got overflowing closets and broken screen doors, and 6 years worth of tax paperwork and bills that aren't filed, and a nagging health condition we need to address, and on and on. We have incompleted tasks and messes that aren't cleaned up. So one way to stop feeling overwhelmed by what you already have to do is to clean up these messes and incompletes first. It's especially important to handle these incompletes because of what psychologists call attention units. You can only attend to 7 things at once. Beyond that, you can't. So when you have a cluttered desk, when you're constantly seeing all these papers and unanswered letters and lists of phone calls you need to make and the 3,000 emails in your inbox, these things steal your focus away from the other tasks you want to accomplish. You look over your mental to-do list and think, oh, I should move that. I should put that away. I need to answer that. The more incompletes you have in your life, your focus and creative energy gets fractured and scattered. The other reason it's important to clean up your messes and your incompletes is that doing so builds the self-confidence and self-esteem that helps you move along. When we have a lot of incompletes in our lives, we're consciously or unconsciously judging ourselves as incompetent and incapable because we haven't completed them. Every time you look at these messages, they're reflecting back to us this message: you aren't handling me. We're either afraid to handle them or don't know how to handle them. And this fear and lack of knowledge compromises our feelings of competence. By handling the incompletes, we get more time in our lives to focus on those steps that will bring about the really important goals and dreams we have. So take the time to put all your incompletes and messes down on one list, either on paper or in your computer. Walk around in the house and note things room by room. Go through your stack of bills to find anything not handled yet. Once you have these things listed, you can prioritize them. Then tackle one a month or one per quarter. You don't have to think about the others all the time because you know they're on the list and will be handled in the order of their importance. So they're not using up those memory units. You can even apply the minimum target optimum model to these messes. What is the minimum goal or the smallest incomplete that you will commit to handling by this weekend? What's a larger mess or incomplete you could make a target goal to handle by this month? And what's an outrageous goal that you can handle, such as incomplete home renovation over the next 90 days? Handling incompletes and messes boosts your confidence and creates available attention span in your life to tackle the 5 things a day you want to do to reach your really big goals. But let's address the third roadblock that keeps people from taking action on their goals. And that is, they lack confidence when asking for what they need from people who can help them. Asking for help you need is still a challenge that holds many people back. Why are people so afraid to ask? We're afraid for several reasons: looking needy, looking foolish, looking ignorant, but mostly we're afraid of experiencing rejection. We are afraid of hearing the word no. The sad thing is that when we don't ask, we're actually rejecting ourselves in advance. We're saying no to ourselves before anyone else has a chance to. But there's an illustration to think about. If you apply to Harvard and you don't get in, you weren't in Harvard before you applied, and you're not in Harvard after you applied. Your life didn't get worse or change at all. Think about that. You spent your whole life not going to Harvard, and you know how to handle that. Someone telling you no doesn't make your situation any worse. It just keeps it the same. But you're offering yourself the possibility of a yes by asking the question. Well, there's a specific science to asking for and getting what you want or need in the pursuit of your goals. Here's some quick tips to get you more comfortable with asking. Number 1, ask as if you expect to get it. Ask with a positive expectation. Ask from the place that you already have been given it. It is a done deal. Ask if you expect to get a yes. Number 2, assume you can. Don't start with the assumption that you can't get it. If you are going to assume you can get an upgrade. Assume that you can get a table by the window. Assume that you can return it without a sales slip. Assume that you can get a raise or that promotion. Don't ever assume against yourself. Number 3, ask someone who can give it to you. Qualify the person. Determine for yourself, who would I have to speak to get this accomplished? Who is authorized to make a decision about that? Who do I have to speak with to get whatever it is that I'm asking for? Number 4, be clear and specific. Too many people are walking around wanting more money, more love, more help around the house, more recognition at work, more everything, but they're not being specific. Do you want enough money to retire? Do you want enough money for a vacation? Do you want enough money to go out for the weekend? Do you want to go on a date twice a month? Do you want the kids' bedroom picked up every Friday? and the laundry to be done every Saturday. If you're not sure about the specifics, do the research of what it takes to make specific requests. Number 5, ask repeatedly. Never give up. Whenever we ask others to participate in the fulfillment of our goals, some people are going to say no. They may have other priorities, commitments, and reasons not to participate. It's no reflection on you. Just get used to the idea that there's going to be a lot of rejection along the way. The key is not to give up. When someone says no, you say, next. Which brings me to number 6. Ask someone else. Remember, there are over 6 billion people on the planet. Someone else has enough authorization, enough skill, enough knowledge to get you what you need. Don't get connected with the person who can't help you. It's a numbers game. Someone out there is waiting to say yes. Well, we've come to the end of today's webinar. I'll finish the prison riot story I began with. 1 year after that riot situation, almost to the day, we were in the exact same situation, expecting the living units to explode because of another incident in another institution involving a stabbing. This time, my boss asked me to deliver the same message as last year, and that he would pay me this time. Even had he not paid me, I would have done it anyway. My passion then, as well as now, is helping people to a better life. That's why I'm here today. This time, out of 12 living units, they all rioted again, except for my 2. This time I got a commendation and a training assignment in central office in Sacramento. The R factor works. But I want to close with 2 things. Number 1, I want you to choose right now one thing that you'll commit to doing to create the future you desire and you deserve starting tonight. Whether it's complete the decide what you want exercise in a workbook, or write your first 3x5 affirmation cards, or handle a difficult and troubling situation, whatever it is, make a mental commitment now and share it with us by posting it to the board on the webinar. Remember, when we share our goals, they are more likely to be achieved. I'd like to close with an invitation to contact me for any additional help that you need. Sometimes it's difficult to find a friend or family member to work on these life-changing concepts with you. They aren't always supportive and may even be throwing roadblocks in your way. That's where I can help, by being an outsider and coach to help you identify paths to reaching your goals. So contact me. And thank you so much for joining me today. My email is Lee, L-E-E, at TCBS, T Tom, C Charlie, D Boy, S Sam. Or you can remember it by taking care of business singing. I like to do a little bit of that. Thanks again, and goodbye.